What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about 5 major misconceptions about the Taíno people. And starting off, we're going to start off with, honestly, I believe it to be probably the biggest one, which is a lot of people tend to gatekeep what is Taíno and what isn't. And what I mean by this is that Taíno symbols and Taíno culture as a whole, Taíno ethnicity is often associated with people from Spanish-speaking islands like Cuba, Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic. But in reality, the Taíno lived in all of the greater Antilles, including Jamaica and Haiti, and various other smaller islands. So we cannot say that Taíno is exclusive to Spanish-speaking territories because they tend to incorporate it in different ways, usually in artisanry, in a lot of the artwork that's sold to tourists. There tends to be a lot of Taíno symbols, but if you were to ask the average individual of these countries or these islands, they would not be able to tell you what these symbols are or what they mean. And that's really where my issue lies, given that at least in Jamaica, the Taíno represented on the coat of arms of Jamaica. Also in Haiti, the preservation of Taíno spirituality has been best preserved among those that practice Haitian Vodou, where you see things like the Zemi being incorporated, which is the terminology used for gods in the Taíno religion. Now, the second misconception is that the Taíno were not formidable warriors. This is not inherently true. As a matter of fact, the Taínos were the ones that engaged or began war with the Spanish. It was not the other way around. But regardless of that, what we see with the Taíno is a huge decimation of population due to diseases. Now, this is the same for all people in Native America, as they did not develop an immunity to said diseases coming from Europe. So a vast majority of the Taíno population suffered at the hand of these diseases. So of course, that's going to weaken their military strength. But nonetheless, the Taíno were formidable warriors, especially in hand-to-hand combat. They had their own form of martial arts and were known to be very deadly in close range. Their favorite weapon being the Macana War Club, which was made out of guayacan wood, which is known as the hardest wood in the Western Hemisphere. And this war club was deemed so hard and so useful in close range combat against the Spanish that the Spanish feared the Taíno coming within close proximity because they could split their Spanish steel helmets with these war clubs. The Taíno also used various tactics in war. They were typically a conscripted army. That means that they were not professional soldiers, but when war times came about, every man was expected to fight. Some women were expected to fight, and they were trained as they grew up, especially in their normal hand-to-hand combat. Given that the Spanish arrived in the New World when the Taínos were actively at war against the neighboring Kalinago people, the Taíno were in a heightened state of warfare at that time and used certain things like chemical warfare, like using hot peppers and coal to cause irritation of the eyes on their enemies. So there you go. There are various examples of the Taíno being formidable warriors in conflict with the Spanish and neighboring tribes. Third misconception is that the Taíno were a remote people that lived on an island, never left, never traded with other people, or just primitive people that lived on an island, never interacted with anybody. This is completely the opposite. The Taíno are known for building canoas, which are very large canoes. That's where the word canoe comes from, is canoa, that would have up to 30 men on them. And these canoes could sail the open ocean and allowed them to trade with neighboring nations, including those in the Yucatan, all the way to Florida, and different parts of the Gulf of Mexico. The Taíno contributed heavily to the distribution of crops such as corn, squash, potatoes, tomatoes, spices, all over the Gulf of Mexico, among neighboring islands, and of course the mainland in the vicinity of the Caribbean. A fourth misconception, which is often represented in artwork of many Caribbean nations, unfortunately, is that Taíno people are typically seen holding hands with or praying next to Spaniards and African slaves to a cross or something of the sort. And this is indicative of representing the Taíno as peaceful converts of Christianity. This is far from the truth. So this was a huge justification for the genocide and exploitation of the Taíno. So there you have it. They did not peacefully convert to Christianity, and I don't think that they would have in terms of a form of peaceful conversion. The last misconception I'll bring up in this video is that the Taíno were a monolithic group. The Taíno are representative of a particular set of Arawak speaking people that inhabited the Greater Antilles of the Caribbean. However, they govern themselves as individual islands and even individual clans in some places. So they were not a monolithic group. However, they did have major ceremonies where different islands were invited to come celebrate, usually religious ceremonies or religious sacrifices and things of that nature would entail for everyone to gather together, similarly to how the Celts culture was in Europe. And there you have it. Those are 5 major misconceptions about the Taíno people. Let me know what you think in the comments. Like, share, comment, all that good stuff. And make sure you stay tapped into your roots. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.